What's up, Broncos Country? Get ready because what's coming up ahead isn't for the faint of heart, folks. We're heading into the final stretch of the regular season, and every game now is worth its weight in gold, worth playoff positioning, worth that January dream this fan base has been waiting for so long. And look who's standing in our Broncos' way in Week 15, none other than the Green Bay Packers, that historic franchise from Wisconsin, playing at home in the freezing cold on that iconic field that has witnessed legends of football work miracles. But hold on, because before we dive headfirst into this matchup that promises to have everyone holding their breath from the first snap to the last, there's something you need to understand. This isn't just another game of the season. No, folks. This is about destiny. It's about proving that the Denver Broncos are back for real. It's about showing the entire country that this orange and blue squad isn't here just to participate, but to dominate, to conquer, to make history in this league. Look, I know what many are thinking on the other side of the screen. Can we handle the pressure? Will our offense be able to produce against that experienced defense? And our young quarterback, will he keep his head on straight in such a hostile environment? These are valid questions, questions that keep any passionate fan up at night. But that's exactly why this matchup is so special, so important, so decisive for our Broncos' trajectory in this season that has already surprised so many people. Because let's be real here, Broncos Country. Nobody was betting much on us at the beginning of the year, right? The predictions were timid. The experts spoke cautiously. There was always that but at the end of every analysis. The Broncos are improving, but the team has potential, but the defense is good, but always a caveat, always a reservation, always that nagging doubt whether we really had what it takes to compete on equal footing with the conference's elite. And look where we are now. Fighting for a playoff spot, showing grit week after week, proving that when you have a cohesive group, a coaching staff that believes in the process, and a fan base that pushes the team from the first to the last second, things can change quickly in this league. Football is like that, folks. It's unpredictable. It's visceral. It's about who wants it more when the lights come on and the opening whistle blows. Now, speaking specifically about this matchup against the Packers, we need to understand the size of the challenge ahead. We're talking about a franchise with enormous tradition, with a veteran quarterback who has seen it all in this league, who knows exactly how to exploit every gap the opposing defense leaves open. It's a team playing at home with the crowd behind them, with that Wisconsin climate that makes any opponent uncomfortable, especially teams coming from warmer regions. Lambeau Field isn't just any stadium, folks. That place breathes football. Every corner of that field has memories of legendary games, of moments that defined entire seasons, of athletes who became immortal wearing green and gold. Playing there means facing not just 11 players on the other side of the line, but also decades of tradition, the weight of expectation from a fanatic crowd, and weather conditions that can turn the game upside down in a matter of minutes. But you know what? It's exactly this kind of challenge that separates good teams from great teams. It's in these moments, in these decisive games against heavyweight opponents, in hostile environments, that teams show what they're really made of. And our Broncos, this crew that wears orange and blue with so much pride, has everything it takes to prove that the time has come to take the next step toward the NFL elite. Let's talk a bit about what the experts are saying about this game, because the analyses are divided, the predictions are tight, and each argument presented makes sense within the context of this matchup. Some people are betting on the Packers' experience and home field advantage. Others believe in the Broncos' current momentum, in the hunger of this group that knows every win now could be the difference between watching the playoffs from home or being there competing for the Lombardi Trophy. One of the most debated points is precisely the battle between defenses and offenses. On one side, we have the Broncos defense, which has been one of the team's strengths throughout the season. This defensive unit has shown versatility, the ability to adapt schemes according to the opponent, constant pressure on the opposing quarterback, and a secondary that doesn't give anyone an easy time. When the orange and blue defense is locked in, folks, any offense in the league struggles to produce. On the other side, the Packers' offense with a quarterback who understands the game like few others. A guy who reads defenses like he's reading an open book, who has a strong arm to make every throw in the playbook, and who has fast, technical receivers who know how to find space even in tight coverage. It's the type of challenge our defense loves because it's against teams like this, against potent offenses, that great defenses truly shine. On the offensive side, the Broncos need to find rhythm from the start. You can't start slow in a game like this. You can't let the Packers open up a lead and then have to play catch-up the entire game. The ground game needs to work. The short and intermediate passing scheme has to be sharp, and most importantly, the offensive line needs to give our quarterback time to make reads and make the right decisions. Because, let's be honest here, Broncos Country. If the offensive line can control the Packers' defensive line, if it can open holes for our running back to gain important yards, if it can give that solid protection for the quarterback to work comfortably in the pocket, the chances of victory increase exponentially. Football has always been and always will be won in the trenches, in the hand-to-hand battles between offensive and defensive lines. Whoever dominates that physical war usually comes away with the victory. And there's another crucial factor that can't be ignored: special teams. In a game that promises to be balanced, where every possession is worth gold, where every field position can make a difference, having a reliable returner, an accurate kicker, and a disciplined coverage unit can be the difference between winning and losing. How many times have we seen games decided by a field goal in the final seconds? How many times has a well-placed punt completely changed the momentum of a game? Speaking of momentum, that's another interesting aspect of this matchup. The Packers are coming off a stretch where they've shown highs and lows, where they've had dominant performances, but also games where they fell short. Meanwhile, the Broncos are building consistency, showing evolution week after week, gaining confidence with each victory earned. In football, momentum matters. A confident team plays differently, makes better decisions, executes with more precision. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room: the weather. Playing in Green Bay in December is no joke, folks. We're talking about temperatures that can easily drop below zero, cutting wind, possibility of snow, conditions that affect everything, from the receiver's ability to hold onto the ball to the accuracy of passes, from traction on the field to player comfort on the field. Teams accustomed to milder weather historically struggle at Lambeau when winter hits hard. But here's something interesting. The Broncos play in Denver, a high-altitude city where the air is thin, where visitors typically feel the physical impact of the different environment. In other words, our team also has experience using home field advantage, understands, well, what it means to play in adverse conditions. So while Wisconsin's cold is challenging, it's not something that will mentally defeat this group before the ball even starts rolling. And speaking of mental, let's talk about pressure. Who's under more pressure in this game? You can argue for both sides. The Packers, playing at home with fans expecting a win, need to win to keep their playoff dream alive in an extremely competitive conference. Losing at home to a direct competitor in the playoff race would be a hard blow, perhaps even fatal to the season's aspirations. But the Broncos also feel the weight of the situation. Every loss now could mean missing the playoffs, watching all the season's work go down the drain, finishing another year watching January on television. It's the type of game that defines seasons, that separates teams that come close from those that actually get there. And our Broncos Country family knows all too well how frustrating it is to keep coming close without taking that final step. So let's get to the predictions, the forecasts, what analysts are saying about this matchup that promises to stop all of Broncos Country in front of the TV. Some experts are betting on a tight Packers win, arguing that home field advantage, combined with their quarterback's experience and the weather factor, should tip the scales. These folks generally project a low score, something like 21-17, 24-20, those grinded-out games where every possession is worth gold. On the other hand, some believe the Broncos will surprise. This group points to our defense's strength, the offense's evolution in recent weeks, the fact that young, hungry teams often surprise more established opponents precisely because they have no fear, play without pressure, attack without hesitation. These analysts project a Broncos victory by something like 23-20, 27-24, always in these games contested until the end. Regardless of the specific prediction, there's consensus on one thing. This game will be decided by details. It'll be about which team commits fewer mistakes, which defense makes that crucial stop at the right moment, which offense can convert that important third down when the game is in the final stretch. Whoever can anticipate what the opponent will do has a huge advantage. Now, folks, I want you to think with me for a moment. Remember when this season started? Remember the modest expectations, the cautious predictions, that feeling that it would be another rebuilding year? And look where we are, fighting for the playoffs, respected by opponents, playing with confidence and attitude. This doesn't happen by accident, Broncos Country. It's the type of matchup that can turn on a recovered fumble, on an interception at the right moment, on a sack that kills a promising opponent's drive. And that's where preparation comes in. The Broncos coaching staff certainly spent the entire week studying Packers film, identifying tendencies, understanding what they like to do in specific situations, preparing our players to recognize formations and react quickly. Modern football is as much a chess game as it is a contact sport. This is the result of hard work, of a group that bought into the idea of leadership on and off the field. And you know what the most exciting part of all this is? The journey isn't over yet. In fact, the most important part is just beginning. Because it's one thing to get here, it's another thing to take the next step. It's easy to surprise when nobody expects anything from you. The hard part is maintaining the level, continuing to win when everyone already knows you're good, when opponents study you carefully, when every game is treated like a final. If you're true Broncos Country, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single play. Hit that bell because the next few games are going to be intense. Each game will bring emotion, and you won't want to miss any analysis, any reaction, any moment of this journey to the playoffs. Getting back to the game, one aspect that could define everything is red zone efficiency. In other words, when teams get close to the opponent's end zone, who can turn those opportunities into touchdowns instead of settling for field goals? In high-level football, leaving points on the table usually means defeat. A team that enters the red zone 3-4 times and comes away with only field goals rarely wins important games. The Broncos need to be lethal when they get close. You can't waste opportunities. You can't be satisfied with 3 points when 7 are right there, within reach. And this involves creativity in play calling, perfect execution by players, quick and accurate decisions by the quarterback. The red zone is where great teams separate themselves from mediocre ones, where champions show winning mentality. On the defensive side, forcing field goals instead of allowing touchdowns could be the game's difference. If our defense can stiffen when the Packers get close to the end zone, if it can make those crucial stops on 3rd or 4th down, we'll be on the right path to victory. Defense wins championships, folks. Write that down. Another fundamental point, clock control. In a game that promises to be balanced, whoever can control time of possession, whoever can sustain long drives, keeping the opposing defense on the field, gains significant advantage. Drives of 8, 10, 12 plays that consume 5, 6, 7 minutes of the clock not only put points on the board, but also leave the opposing defense exhausted and take their offense out of rhythm. The Broncos have the ability to do this. With a functional ground game, with efficient short and intermediate passes, with a quarterback who's maturing each week, we can build those consistent drives that dominate the game. And when you dominate time of possession, you control the game's pace, You dictate the rules. You put the opponent in a reactive position instead of proactive. Let's also talk about halftime adjustments. Football is a game of two well-defined halves, and what happens in the locker room during those 15-20 minutes can completely change the face of the game. Coaching staffs analyze what worked and what didn't in the first half, make tactical adjustments, motivate players, correct mistakes. Teams that make good halftime adjustments frequently dominate the second half. Historically, the Broncos have shown adaptability. When something isn't working, the coaching staff isn't afraid to change, to try something different, to surprise the opponent with a new formation or different scheme. This tactical flexibility is valuable, especially against an experienced team like the Packers, who will certainly try to impose their game. And there's the discipline issue. In tight games, penalties can kill. A holding penalty at the wrong time negates an important first down. A pass interference gives the opponent excellent field position. A personal foul keeps alive a drive that should have ended. A disciplined team doesn't beat itself, doesn't hand the game to the opponent on a silver platter. The Broncos need to play with intensity, but also with control, with aggression, but also with intelligence. Thinking about individual matchups, it'll be interesting to see how our secondary fares against the Packers receivers. They're fast, technical athletes who know how to create separation even in tight coverage. Our cornerbacks and safeties will need to be at the top of their game, covering precisely, helping in run defense when necessary, not allowing big plays that can quickly turn the game. On the flip side, our receivers face a Packers secondary that has experience, but has also shown vulnerabilities throughout the season. If we can win individual matchups, if we can make those difficult catches in crucial moments, we open up the entire game. Because when the opponent has to respect the pass, it becomes easier to establish the ground game. And when the ground game works, the entire offense flows better. Speaking of the ground game, our running back will have tough work ahead. The Packers' defensive line is physical, aggressive, disciplined against the run, but if we can get those 3-4 yards per attempt consistently, if we can keep drives alive through the run game, we put our offense in advantageous situations. Short third downs are much easier to convert than third and longs. By the way, Broncos Country, what are you thinking about this analysis so far? Are you confident, nervous, anxious for this game to start already? Because I know it's hard to wait. It's hard to be in suspense when you know every minute of this matchup could be decisive for the season's future. But it's precisely this tension, this emotion, that makes football the most passionate sport on the planet. Getting back to the game, we need to talk about the experience versus hunger factor. The Packers have veterans who have played hundreds of NFL games, who know how to manage pressure moments, who don't panic when things get tough. That's worth a lot, especially in playoff games or games with direct playoff implications like this one. But the Broncos have something equally valuable: the hunger of those who want to prove their worth, the energy of a young group that plays without fear, the unity of a team that believes it's building something special. Football history is full of examples of young, hungry teams overcoming more experienced opponents precisely because they played with heart, because they weren't intimidated, because they attacked without fear of making mistakes. And when you combine that attitude with talent and proper preparation, special things can happen. The Broncos have all of that. Now it's time to put it into practice on the field. An interesting tactical detail is how each team will use their offensive formations. The Packers like to vary, to use multiple receivers, to force the opposing defense to constantly adjust. The Broncos need to be ready for these changes, need to communicate well, need to execute adjustments quickly. Defenses that get lost in communication against versatile offenses end up giving up silly big plays. On the other hand, our offense can also use creativity to confuse the Packers' defense. Play action passes, well-executed screens, formations with pre-snap motion that force the defense to reveal their coverage before the snap. The more doubt you create in the opposing defense's mind, the easier it becomes to exploit their weaknesses. And every team has weaknesses, no matter how good they are. The role of tight ends could also be crucial in this game. In modern football, versatile tight ends who can block on the line but also run routes are valuable weapons. They create matchup problems because linebackers are usually too slow to cover and safeties are too small to match up physically. If the Broncos can exploit the middle of the field with the tight end, we open up space for outside receivers and the running back. Defensively, our linebackers will be tested both in coverage and against the run. The Packers have running backs who are threats in both the ground game and the passing game, so linebackers need to be prepared for any situation. It's quite a challenge, but that's what they train for. It's for these moments that elite athletes prepare their entire lives. And we can't forget the defensive line. Pressure on the opposing quarterback without needing to blitz is pure gold in football. If our defensive ends and tackles can collapse the pocket with just a four-man rush, we keep more people in coverage. We make life much harder for the opposing quarterback. Constant pressure forces mistakes, leads to sacks, results in fumbles and interceptions. It's one of the game's keys. On the other side, our offensive line can't allow the Packers' defensive line to dominate. This means not only protecting the quarterback, but also opening holes for the running back, controlling the line of scrimmage, winning individual battles in the front five. When the offensive line dominates, the entire offense works. When the offensive line gets beat, the offense becomes impotent. Simple as that. We now reach a crucial point in the analysis, the mental factor. In big games like this, with so much at stake, mental preparation is as important as physical and tactical preparation. Athletes need to be focused but relaxed, intense but controlled, confident but not arrogant. It's a delicate balance that separates mediocre performances from dominant displays. The Broncos seem to have the right mentality. Throughout the season, they've shown resilience in difficult moments, the ability to respond when they fell behind on the scoreboard, maturity to close out games when they were ahead. These are qualities of winning teams, of squads that know how to win in different ways. Not every game is a dominant victory. Sometimes you need to win ugly. You need to suffer until the last second. You need to find a way when nothing is working perfectly. And look, folks, I'm going to be honest with you. This game could go either way. It could be a comfortable Broncos win. It could be a tight Packers victory. It could be that crazy game that goes to overtime and is decided by a detail. Football is unpredictable like that. It's exciting like that. It's addictive like that. And that's exactly why we love this sport, why every Sunday we stop everything to watch, to cheer, to suffer and celebrate, along with the team. But regardless of the final result, one thing is already clear. The Denver Broncos are back on the NFL's competitive scene. We're no longer that team everyone looked at with pity or indifference. We're a respected opponent, a team that can go toe-to-toe with anyone, a squad that's building something solid for the future. And that Broncos Country family, that's a reason for pride. Because at the end of the day, being a fan is about this. It's about believing even when things are tough. It's about supporting in good times and bad. It's about being part of something bigger than yourself. It's about feeling those butterflies before the game starts. It's about celebrating each first down earned. It's about suffering through each important third down. It's about exploding with joy when that touchdown happens at the right moment. And Sunday will have all of that and much more. There'll be emotion from the first to the last snap. There'll be tension on decisive plays. There'll be that drama that only football provides. There'll be all of Broncos Country glued to the screen, cheering, believing, pushing the team even from afar. Because fans make a difference, folks. Positive energy crosses continents. Good vibes reach the players somehow. So the message is, it doesn't matter what the experts say. It doesn't matter who the favorite is in the betting houses. It doesn't matter the recent history between the teams. What matters is what will happen on the field Sunday. It's 60 minutes of high-level football. It's two teams fighting for their season's dreams. It's elite athletes giving everything for that victory that could change everything. The Broncos will arrive in Green Bay prepared. They'll enter that Lambeau Field without fear. They'll face the cold, the opposing crowd, all the difficulties with the attitude of those who belong on that stage. Because we belong, folks. The Denver Broncos have enough tradition, have enough quality, have enough heart to compete with any team in this league. And when the final whistle blows, when the 60 minutes are over, regardless of the result on the scoreboard, we'll have learned more about this team. We'll have seen another chapter written in this special season. We'll have witnessed another step in the journey of this group that's rebuilding the Broncos' name among the NFL's elite. But of course, we want the win. We need the win. Because every game now counts double. Every victory brings us closer to the goal. Every loss complicates the path. And I trust that our players know this, know the importance of the moment, know it's time to leave everything on the field and have no regrets afterward. So Broncos Country, what would you do if you were in charge of this team for this game? Would you bet more on offense or defense? Would you try to establish the run right away or go to the passes? Would you be aggressive or conservative? Comment below with your strategy. Let's debate. Let's exchange ideas about this matchup that promises to be epic. Leave a like if you're confident in a Broncos victory. Share with all your friends who are true Broncos Country. And stay tuned, because after the game, we'll be back with all the analysis, all the reactions, everything that happened in this decisive matchup. Sunday is the day to put on the orange and blue. It's the day to make noise. It's the day to show why Broncos Country is the most passionate fan base in the NFL. Let's go together, family. Until the next video, and may victory come our way.